Ahoy there, and welcome back to DohMance Dawn, your premier podcast for One Piece and The Simpsons discussions, whether you like it or not. I am your primary host, Luke, he, him, sometimes they, them, and I'm joined by my wonderful, ecstatic, and excellent co-host, Janine.
Hello, my name is Janine Juliet. My pronouns are she, they, and I don't have a third thing to say because, Luke, we do have a guest with us today, don't we?
Yes, we have on this week Bitter Karella, founder of the Midnight Society, three-time Hugo nominee for Best Fan Writer, host of A Special Presentation or Alf Will Not Be Seen Tonight, and your new book, Moonflow, is coming out in September from Hatchet Press. Hello.
That is correct. Yes, hi. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for being willing to come on to our highly specific show, Karella.
Yeah, I have to say I have never encountered another podcast that is tackling this topic, but it's about time someone did.
Thank you. I think that long-running animated shows that people have very strong opinions on based on when they got into it is a fascinating topic. You are a horror writer, a also sort of... I'd argue that Midnight Society is at least comedic at times.
It has its moments. I think it's got a few jokes and japes in there.
Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to get you on for an episode that is equally kind of spooky and scary. What is your background with The Simpsons?
Oh, well, I am very old, so I've been watching The Simpsons almost since the beginning, or at least I should say the classic Simpsons. I started back in, well, The Simpsons started back in 1989 when I was Bart's age, and I was still watching it a few years ago when I was Homer's age. And what I distinctly remember about The Simpsons is back in 1989, I was living overseas with my family. We came home, and on the plane, we saw a Butterfingers commercial. And I just remember thinking, what the fuck is that thing? I hate that. That is the most awful cartoon I have ever seen. And I came to America, and it was everywhere, like everywhere. And I was so baffled. I was kind of anti-Simpsons at first because I was a real contrarian. And I was like, I don't like these popular things that everyone's into. Oh, I'm too cool for that. But I think it was around the time that the episode that won me over was the Three-Eyed Fish episode, I remember. That one I thought was very amusing. So after that, I kind of just started watching, and eventually I was, like everyone in America, a pretty diehard Simpsons fan up until around the year 2000 when I saw the episode Homer Gets a Gun, and I just remember being like, oh yeah, it's over. This is it.
Fair. So was that like a complete, you have no idea what the Simpsons have been up to since then? Did you come back for the movie, or?
I came back for the movie, and I've watched it, sporadically since. But I'm pretty uninformed about anything in the last 15 years at least. Every time I see clips from the last 15 years, I'm like, oh, they look like computers. I don't like that. It's too nice now. And whenever I see clips, it's usually like, I don't know, the more recent episodes always seem to be like, oh, here's a celebrity. We're going to talk about how great they are. Let's kiss the celebrity's ass, which, they did a little bit in the old days as well, but they were a little more subtle about it, so they could get away with flattering celebrities, but still poking a little bit of fun at them. And, it really had that kind of sweet spot that made a lot of the older Simpsons work better, I think.
Yeah.
Because, I just remember there's kind of a difference between episodes like Krusty Gets Canceled, which I think we may be talking about, and later ones like with Max Power, where it's like, oh, these celebrity guests feel like, I don't know, we got a celebrity, so now Homer's got to, for some reason, be really into like Opie Taylor. Not Opie Taylor. Who is the guy on that one? I can't.
Uh, Ron, no, Ron Howard
Ron
is
Howard, that's it.
that one. Yeah.
Or wasn't there an episode where for some reason he became friends with like Alec Baldwin or one of the Baldwins? That was around the same time as Max
Yeah.
Power.
Because that also has Ron Howard, so he comes back in that second episode as well. But that's When You Dish Upon a Star. It also has Kim Basinger and someone else.
Yeah, and that's around the time when I was just kind of like, oh, these aren't bad. Like Simpsons in the year 2000 wasn't bad by any stretch, but you could start to see the cracks. I feel like because I remember prior to that, every Simpsons episode you were guaranteed one laugh out loud moment per half hour, which is a pretty good return for a sitcom. And when I got to 2000, Homer buying the gun was the first episode where I was like, oh, I didn't laugh at this, and that means something. Also, it's the one episode where Homer buys a gun and he doesn't buy it from Herman. So it's like, what are you doing, Simpsons? You have a character whose sole purpose is to sell guns. Why is Homer not buying his gun from that guy?
I think that is completely reasonable. It's definitely morphed into a very different show now, where it's almost a exploratory show that isn't always funny, but they're trying to just kind of avoid doing what they've done before, which sometimes works, and sometimes you get an episode about how culture shifting animated media for younger audiences can cause fraternal rifts between siblings. And it's like, sure, okay. There's other stuff. What did you know about One Piece coming into this?
Well, I knew it was an anime. And I knew because I have a group of friends who were like really big into it, and they did One Piece cosplays for many years as like a group. So I was like, okay, it's about pirates. One of them can stretch, and one of them is like a reindeer, and that's about it. That's the entirety of what I knew about One Piece.
That is completely fair. It's one of those things where the fact that it has been going on for 25 years and is just kind of starting to seep more into people's general knowledge is wild to me. I was watching Conan Must Go, the Max show, and it's like, oh, yeah, one of the people was just wearing a bunch of One Piece shirts and has posters, and they also have like multiple kids. It's got a big audience.
Well, it's been, like you said, it's been going on. How long has it been going on now? It
started in 98, I want to say.
Oh, okay. So that's a long ass time to be doing a show. So it is it is younger than The Simpsons, though, apparently.
Yes, it has been going on as a manga since 1997, and the anime started in 1999.
Okay. But yeah, this was my very first actual viewing of One Piece, and I get the impression it is not particularly representative of the series.
Yes and no. Because there's still like two main time periods. There's what's referred to as the pre-time skip and then the post-time skip. And in our coverage, which is a few years down the line, we're still pre-time skip. And like the movie is still very much something that could be canonical. It could be filler. It just isn't.
And the movie is what is the name of this movie again? It's Baron Ama
and Omatsuri and the Secret Island.
All right, so yeah, it does involve both of those things. So accurate title.
Yes. But before we get into that, the movie came out on March 5th of the year 2005. Contextually, this came out during a filler arc called Ocean's Dream, which was kind of forgettable. It's a video game adaptation. There's an evil seahorse in it. Simpsons-wise, this came out the same weekend as On a Clear Day I Can't See My On a Clear Day, I Can't See My Sister in season 16, episode 11. But because we covered that previously, we each picked an episode of The Simpsons from the golden era that we haven't actually covered, and I kind of wanted to get into that. I picked Itchy and Scratchy Land, season 6, episode 4, because I think it was a thematically similar episode. If you don't know about these episodes and you're listening to a Simpsons podcast, just watch them on whatever streaming you have. This is the one where the family goes to Itchy and Scratchy Land, and then it turns into a Westworld situation when all the robots turn killer, and the family has to work together to escape. And lots of great jokes in this, lots of very timely jokes for better and for worse. You get the weird John Travolta being out of work joke the year before his big comeback started. You get Bort license plates.
Classic.
5 corners. Nazi Supermen are superiors. The Highway 9 Bird Sanctuary. Flickies. Mr. Wembley. There's a joke every minute. It's very loose on plot, but they have so much stuff in here.
Yeah, this is one of those episodes where when you meet someone who quotes The Simpsons, 90% of their quotes will probably come from this episode.
Mm-hmm. Janine, any comments? Because you haven't had much to say this episode.
Oh yeah, but I always like to hear more about our guests than I do like to gab about myself in these situations. But Itchy and Scratchy Land, I feel like the wardrobe changes. You don't get to see that very often, and I just like the different outfits that the Simpsons were wearing in this particular episode. It did feel like outside of the ordinary, despite being just another episode. And it's always something that I always forget about it too.
There.
Yeah, this is a good episode that it slides down easily,
Mm-hmm. There's nothing that kind of grinds you to a halt. It's just silly jokes, some solid Disney digs, and stuff that they wouldn't get away with today, like Ku Klux Klan.
Oh yeah. And it does end on, I think, probably one of my all-time favorite Simpsons lines, "My children need wine," which
Yes.
is something that I still say regularly to this day.
Yeah, it's a banger episode. Janine, you picked Krusty Gets Canceled, season 4, episode 22. What was your reason for picking this episode?
This episode has a lot going for it that I personally love. It's got Gabbo. It's got Worker and Parasite.
Yep. Worker and Parasite, another all-timer.
It's got Crudler.
Oh man, yeah.
Anytime I think about an older Simpsons episode, I think about this one, and I remember watching it as a child, having this as really my first impression of a lot of these celebrities.
Yeah, actually, I remember seeing this as a kid and just not knowing who any of these people were, except for Johnny Carson. I did recognize him, or at least I had heard of him. I guess I didn't recognize him. I was like, oh, it's the guy. He's on the TV.
Yeah. We also get some other big stuff. This was the first Bumblebee Man appearance.
Hell yeah.
Oh, was this also the first appearance of the crazy old Yiddish man?
No, it was not.
Oh, huh.
Mm-hmm.
Did he have a speaking role before this?
I don't believe he necessarily had.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep.
Because at this point, I don't think at this point he's when you hear him in this episode, he does not sound, his Yiddish accent gets heavier in later episodes. So I feel like they hadn't yet, determined that as part of his character.
Yeah. Lots of great bits though. We want Chili Willy. That's the sweetest plum. It's slaughtered the Special Olympics. It's it is star studded, but in a way where it makes sense that they're all here, and almost everyone has a good humor to it, especially Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah. I think one of the things that later Simpsons that really kind of annoyed me
Mhm.
was bringing Gabbo back, because uh, Gabbo is a great Gabbo, and what Arthur Crandall, I believe his handler is named.
Mhm.
Um, they are a great pair. I mean, they are so much fun in this and so bizarre. The weird implications that Gabbo is sentient, that they kind of slip in there. Really kind of it ramps up this episode, makes it a little bit weirder than you would think. It's not even like when Bart first overhears Gabbo, you kind of think like, is this going to be a thing? Like, there's going to be some reveal that Gabbo is like, a little kid in a costume or something, and that's what brings him down. But no, it's never really addressed. It just seems to be that like Arthur Crandall may just believe Gabbo is real, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
It wants him to.
but it's like it's a great little like thing they slipped in there. And there are later episodes, I think a couple where they bring Gabbo back, and it's just like, oh yeah, Gabbo should have just remained a one-time thing.
Typically, it has been situations where both Arthur Crandall and Gabbo are down on their luck now and very unemployed.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't know. I feel like it does violence to the original concept of what Gabbo and Arthur are about. But um,
Also, like on a level, Krusty no longer makes sense as a like local TV show host in a Midwestern town, which is something that stopped existing like during the 90s.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of things like when The Simpsons has like Booberella, which is another thing that is kind of your local horror host. Another thing that's kind of mostly stopped existing as well.
Mhm.
And I think like at least Krusty did overlap to some degree with the existence of local kids hosts, maybe. Whereas Booberella didn't start until after that was gone, except for the Elvira on pinball machines.
Or
Um,
like certain cities still have theirs. Like Columbus, where I live, has had Fritz the Night Owl for
mm,
decades, and he still hosts events.
you still have a few guys who got grandfathered in. I think Sana Svanguli might still be hanging on there, but like most towns, you don't even have public. I don't even know if you have public access anymore, to be honest.
Mhm.
Thanks, Ronald Reagan or Obama, whoever we can blame it on. I don't know. Um, but yeah, no, I don't like Gabbo coming back. It's kind of like it's very similar to how I keep thinking like Hank Scorpio is one I keep being afraid they're going to bring back, because
Mhm.
another great character who would only get ruined by too much exposure.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't bring him back for the Simpsons movie.
Yeah, I mean, technically he's back, just under a different name. They just rubbed off the serial numbers.
His original character, Do Not Steal, Hank Scorpio,
Yeah,
would work for the U.S. government.
true.
Uh,
Hank Scorpio. Yeah.
and then the third one we have is the Springfield Files, Season 8, Episode 10, which you picked.
Yes, I picked this one mostly because I have a lot of fond memories of it. I was a huge, sci-fi nerd when I was younger, so this episode kind of blew my mind when it came out. It's got, it's basically an advertisement for the X Files,
Mhm.
which I was also really into at the time. But it gets in all sorts of little digs at fun sci-fi stuff. We've got Leonard Nimoy hosting the episode, kind of doing his In Search of uh, bit. We've got appearances by Alf and Chewbacca and Marvin the Martian. We've got kind of Close Encounters pastiche going on, and then just and it's all wrapped up very nicely with a little oh, here's what's actually happening, keeping us still grounded in the reality that made the early Simpsons work so well. Because later episodes, you could almost imagine them being like, there actually is an alien. always remembering when they discover the Loch Ness monster, and it's like it's real. It changes nothing about the world, but apparently the Loch Ness monster is a real thing in the Simpsons universe. But Springfield Files kind of avoids that, and I appreciate that. Although it does establish canonically that Alf is a real alien in the Simpsons universe, which makes the episode, which makes the fact that he's now in Pogs a little odd. But it's got a lot of good things. It's got Moe with doing his shenanigans involved in some scheme. We've got the actual Mulder and Scully appearing, and just it's just a fun episode. If not, it was before that they did episode. It was back when they still did episodes like this, and they didn't go so far off the rails that you just felt like though you were watching advertisement for another Fox show, it didn't really feel like it. It still had enough of the Simpsons themselves to make it feel like this is there was a reason for this episode. It's not just like another one very similar, I think, is the episode with the critic, which I know Matt Groening thought was too much of an advertisement, but I think still worked in the same sense, where it felt like a Simpsons episode that just happened to be reminding you, hey, go watch this other lesser show as well.
Yeah. If you have enough jokes, you can get it working, but a lot of the time they don't.
Yeah. I know later on, I think I've heard rumors that there is an episode where they meet the Family Guy.
That is technically a Family Guy episode, not a Simpsons episode.
Oh, okay. Well, then I will forgive them for that.
Yeah. Well, we haven't gotten there yet, but we'll figure out how we cross that road when we get there. I mean, we have cast Peter Griffin on our show, so.
Okay. Who's he play?
He plays the evil pirate Blackbeard.
Is Black the actual Blackbeard from real life?
No. This is legally a distinct character who is not Edward Teach, because Edward Teach is a different character in One Piece.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense, because otherwise it would kind of make more sense to have Edward Teach play him, since this chair be high, says I.
Mm-hmm. No, we used Peter Griffin because Blackbeard is Luffy's rival in many ways, and sort of a darker twist on the pirate dream, which I think Peter Griffin is representative of.
That scans.
Mm-hmm. We've also used Stan Smith from American Dad for other reasons. If they cameo, they can show. But yes, let us get on to the movie One Piece Baron Omatsuri and the Secret Island, which was directed by Mamoru Hosoda, who is actually his film Mirai was the 2018 was nominated in 2018 for Best Animated Feature Film, and then he ended up losing to Spider-Verse. But he's also directed other movies like The Boy and the Beast, Wolf Children, Summer Wars, and Digimon, the movie.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so he's done a lot of stuff then. He's a working director.
Yeah, like he was almost the person who directed Howl's Moving Castle.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And then the screenplay was by Masahiro Ito, who also wrote another One Piece movie, worked on Iron Chef somehow, and has done some other things here and there.
Huh, okay. Iron Chef, you say? Mm-hmm. Well, I wonder if that influence comes through in the movie.
So, the Straw Hats find... Oh, and this movie was only released in Japan, so if you haven't seen it, you'll need to go on a adventure like Pirates to find where you can find it. Thanks, Internet. So the Straw Hat Pirates find an advertisement and map for Omatsuri Island. Omatsuri means festival, which promises amazing things and invites pirates to bring their friends to the island. When they arrive there, it's seemingly a deserted jungle, but then they find a massive shifting city All the people here have leaves growing on their head, except for the mysterious Baron Omatsuri. Omatsuri means festival, and with the living flower on his shoulder, who promises the pirates everything that they heard about here if they can survive a trial of hell, and Luffy accepts without thinking.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about this film. But keep in mind, I've never seen One Piece before. This is my first exposure to it, and I think part of my reaction to this film is the fact when One Piece has, like you said, been going on since like the late 90s.
Yeah.
And I feel like it is in some ways such a formative anime that so many other series have kind of cribbed from it and been influenced by it, that criticizing some things about it kind of feels like criticizing Tolkien for, using those stereotypical orcs, when it's like, yeah, he invented it. Everyone's stealing from him. So it kind of has, when I was watching it, that was kind of the feel I was getting, was like, I feel like I have seen all this in many, many animes, but I get the feeling that those are all ones that were taking it from One Piece.
There is, I think, a level where the characters are sort of broad and stock enough that you can kind of get who they are, especially for a movie like this.
Yeah. I know, because I got like, well, the main dude, the Luffy. Is it Luffy? It's Luffy. Okay, you can see how much I know One Piece. I don't even know the main guy. The guy. He's like he's kind of like a wacky funster type. He seems. He likes adventure. He's impulsive. He's kind of all over the place. He's a little frenetic. Mm-hmm. He's got these buddies. One of them is like a real cool lady. Like, she's all like kind of like she wears sunglasses and she's too cool for school. And then there's a guy who's also like really cool. And then there's a second really cool guy. And then there's a reindeer. And then there's kind of this guy who I think who I was like, oh, there's Mo Seslek. He's kind of their pack mule or something, it seems.
Oh, Usopp, the guy who gets his hat stolen.
Yeah, he's like, oh, okay, he's the comic relief.
Yeah.
And they go to this island, and the Baron Festival shows up, and he's all like, I have invited you to this island where there's a great festival. All pirates are invited to Festival Island. It's a great festival on this island. And for reasons, there's a challenge that you have to do. And I am not sure why there's a challenge in this.
I mean, if you got offered an invitation to a free resort and then it's like, all you have to do is survive this challenge, are you taking that challenge?
I mean, I would be like, I'd probably be like, no, this is clearly rigged. What is this? So you get, this is like when you go to like, when they try to sell you a timeshare or something. It's like, clearly this is, they wouldn't be challenging me to a thing if this was possible to win. I also am not like, I'm not a pirate, but like, that's my feeling. I feel just like the movie, sorry, I guess I don't want to like get ahead of ourselves here. Yeah. But because there's a bunch of challenges that happen.
Yeah. The first challenge is a goldfish catching contest where they go up against a guy named Muchigoro. And it seems like it's whoever can catch the most goldfish, but instead it's sort of whoever can catch the most goldfish, which is actually Rosario, this whale-sized goldfish, and they have to try and get it into their bucket. The team ends up inadvertently working together to get it in, and the Baron is upset about this victory. And so he decides to make them do another challenge, but Luffy, Chopper, and Robin get to stay out of this next challenge because they were the ones who kind of got the final taps in. The Baron does not define the rules. He actively tries to screw them over with the rules and misdirects. And it's kind of like, this is someone doing a bad job as a dungeon master who wants the party to fail so he can get them into the main plot, and instead they just roll nat 20s and get their way in.
Yeah, and I think like this is actually like my kind of biggest problem with the movie,
Mhm.
or these challenges, because like you said, it's like he's like, okay, I want you guys to fail so we can get into the main plot of the movie, which is this weird fucked up island,
Yeah.
because there's weird stuff happening on the island. But the movie's like, okay, we're not going to look at the weird stuff on the island. We're half the movie is going to be these like Dragon Ball, type fights where we just see everyone like getting, doing their powers and everything, and these giant challenges, which are technically completely irrelevant to the plot of the movie. And the Baron's just like, I want to give you a challenge when you appeared for reasons. And then, they win, and he's like, okay, another challenge, because he's a sore loser. And they win the second challenge, and the Baron's like, oh, okay, that's fine. I'm not a sore loser anymore. I've accepted that you've won twice. Let's get, now that we've been doing this for like 45 minutes, let's do the actual plot of the movie.
Yeah.
Or actually not. Let's not, because there's going to be a third challenge for reasons coming up too.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of he's trying to get them to fight against each other and pick them off, but it doesn't necessarily work. The next challenge is Nami, and Usopp, and Sanji and Zoro are in a contest to trap the other team in rings against the four wise men, who are four frog-like looking guys, and also a frog-like looking gal. And they're all old.
Yeah, the old people. They're very old. I think they mentioned that, and it's like, oh yeah, they look, they look like old people do in anime. They get real tiny. And they capture them in rings. The rings are kind of cool, because they kind of, when you get like a life preserver thrown over you, it just turns into a bunch of like bondage. Yeah, it's kind of neat. But
it's very it's very not Mario Kart but Diddy Kong racing, because it's like they're in gondolas in this like canal system that pops up between a city, where it's just lined with all the like villagers with the leaves on their head. Usopp gets a power up, like he opens up a emergency item that turns into a glider, so he just gets like swept off the island. And Nami, meanwhile, is left alone and gets captured. Sanji, who dresses like Shrek, shout out to Mike, our cover artist, for calling it out, gets into a fight with Zoro, and both of them end up essentially getting caught, but Usopp returns at the last minute and catches them. But now Nami is angry at Usopp because he accidentally left her behind when he got hijacked by a glider, and Sanji and Zoro always hate each other to a point.
Yeah, that was another. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm being a little bit of a Debbie Downer about this one, but it is mentioned by some characters that the Baron really hates pirates who have a strong bond and can work together as a team. And it's kind of apparent that like he is trying to drive a wedge between them, and that's kind of part of the theme of this episode, since it also like mirrors something in the Baron's own experience with losing friends, and his soreness about that topic. But the Straw Hat Pirates never feels to me like they actually have that bit where they get like torn apart and then have to come back together in the end. They do bicker a lot, but I get the impression that's just kind of how they are, because they are doing it from the start. They're kind of like, a bunch of friends who like argue a lot, which many friend groups do.
Yeah. Imagine.
So it doesn't really feel like the Baron is, I guess I could say maybe it's just the Baron's not successful, but like that theme doesn't really come across to me, because the only thing that ever seems to happen is the reindeer guy. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. I'm very good at being on a One Piece podcast where it's like, that guy, the guy with the hat and the horns. He kind of wanders off to like look at like a graveyard at one point.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, he's not really like abandoning his friends. He's just going on a walk. I don't really think it's, I don't think the theme is really being explored here as deeply as it could be.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I'll kind of like catch up the plot, because we see Robin drinking with Mushigoro, who has to serve her, so she forces him to drink with her, which is queen shit. Because she wants to find out about the lily carnation, this special flower on this island that no one knows anything about it. Luffy meets Brief, the captain of the Chibahige, or Small Mustache Pirates, who invites him to join his crew and then warns Luffy that the Baron destroys friendships. And then Chopper goes and meets the Ochanoma, or Tea Room Pirates, who are a family of four. It's a dad and his three kids. They lost the goldfish contest. He wants to seem like a big man, and then like as they are exploring, they find the poster for the Red Arrow Pirates, which is Omatsuri's pirate crew, where everyone on the poster looks exactly the same except for the Baron, who's aged. And then horrifyingly, the Baron just shows up, shoots Chopper with an arrow, and we get like a few like seconds of, oh, this child is absolutely upset about seeing this happen in front of her eyes.
Yeah, I think this is finally where we start getting into the actual plot, which is or the actual the mystery of the mysterious island, the secret island.
Yeah.
And it is actually like a really interesting and cool secret. And I wish they'd gotten to it a little sooner, because as soon as they introduced the idea that the Baron has not aged, everyone else has aged except the Baron, I was trying to figure out, like, okay, well, clearly clearly something's up.
Yeah.
Because at this point, not knowing much about One Piece, I wasn't really clear on like how much of this stuff is weird in the world. Well, because it's normal. They eat the devil fruits and they all get like weird powers. So that's probably to be expected. No one's going to be weirded out by that. Is anyone weirded out that there's a reindeer here? No, that's normal.
Mhm.
And other things like, oh, there's a kappa here. There's these frog people. I'm assuming all this stuff is normal and not like something that would give you pause. But finally, they've introduced something, and the characters have noted it as odd. So I'm like, okay, now we got a mystery, and I'm intrigued. So this was the point where I started getting into the movie. It took me a little while,
Yeah.
But finally we got something.
I'd really love to see a re-edit of this where they use the White Lotus like soundtrack for all of this. I think that would do a good job of like building the tension a lot more.
Yeah, that is true, because there is so much tension that could be built.
Mhm.
And actually, they do in later parts of this movie. It does get super weird.
Yeah.
It gets real weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I posted the picture of Chopper in the graveyard and sent it to Janine, and was like, yeah, this is like 2 out of 10 for the weirdness of this movie.
Yeah. It's you wouldn't think from the beginning or for the first half, but like once it gets into the there's a lot of stuff that
It
doesn't. Yeah, it goes places.
Yep. So the rest of the Straw Hats, who are now kind of at odds, reunite for a banquet where Sanji gets into a cooking battle with Kotetsu, the chef, over making dinner. Robin heads off to look for the flower and ends up at the wreck of the Red Arrow ship. That's when the Baron reveals that Lily Carnation is a massive tube at the top of a mountain before he shoots Robin. And the tube is great because it's just like, this is disturbing enough both as a like 3D element in this very traditionally animated film, except for the weird like screensaver maze segment that they briefly have.
Yep.
And
yeah, it's so this cooking battle, again, it's like, oh, we got a third battle. And this one's not even like a challenge. It's just the one guy decides he's gonna fuck over this cook and just show off. And the person he's trying to impress is even watching. So at this point, I was just like, oh, here we go, another battle. And this one's about cooking, I guess.
Yeah.
But once they introduce Lily Carnation, yeah, things get really fascinating. I was trying to figure out because they keep implying there's a giant flower that does the thing,
mm-hmm.
and the thing is, that is. It's implied to be connected to that flower the Baron's got on his shoulder,
mm-hmm.
but for most of the thing, I don't think they actually say it. They don't really point out why he's got this flower.
Yeah.
And
compared to later movies, this one is not super concerned with like how any of this works, which kind of builds for the nightmare logic that it kind of leads into.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's the thing is they imply there's a giant flower.
Mhm.
It's a real big flower that does this. And when we see the flower, it's just this enormous tube. And I was trying to figure out watching it. It was like, okay, is that supposed to be like, did the flower is literally so big that that tube is like a single like stamen coming up out of the flower that we're seeing? And it's like so like Lovecraftian gigantic that we can't even conceive of how big this flower is.
Mhm.
It's not real. They don't really address that, so that's my headcanon for what that is. But it is somehow connected to the flower on the Baron's shoulder through some sort of psychic link, I guess, because I don't know. They don't. It just is.
Yeah.
It's like you said. They don't really go into it.
So Nami, still angry with Usopp, blows him off to go and drink with Buchigoro. Usopp wanders off and runs into DJ Kappa, who wants Usopp's hat and ends up knocking him out and stealing it. Sanji goes to serve the food that he made, but he refuses to serve Zoro, which is a big thing for him because his whole idea is everybody deserves a chance to eat. So it is a dick move, but also within the canon of the show, it's kind of more of a, oh, you're really angry at him.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, since I'm not too familiar, I didn't pick up on the significance of that,
Which is
and
fair.
yeah, I think that's one of the, it's. I don't want to hold it against the movie. I think someone who's familiar with the background would really be able to get a lot more out of these character moments. If you're just going by what's on screen, just be like, oh, okay, they're having a fight, but you don't really get the full depths of what it means.
And Nami finds out that Muchigoro is unaware of what has happened in the past 20 years, ever since a big storm, and then he just dies at the table.
Yeah, this is where it starts getting like, now it's starting to get a little fucked up.
Yeah.
We had our fun battles. Now it's time for the bad stuff to happen.
Yeah. The Baron ends the party when he finds out that Muchigoro died. RIP, pour one out for the homie, and announces the final contest as DJ Kappa shows up with Usopp's hat. And it's literally just, hey, we're going to shoot at you until you're dead. And
oh, yeah. So technically, there's another contest. There's 4 contests.
Yeah, like the cooking thing is just Sanji trying to show off, and because he is the cook.
So at this point, like with the Baron, so what is the Baron's point in the contest? Because like if they lose, he feeds them to the flower. If they win, he doesn't. I don't know why he would. Why just do it? Just do it. They came to the island. Just put him in the flower.
Yeah,
you save yourself a lot of time, Baron.
It's Fae rules. You need to like introduce them. You need to set things out. You need to give them a chance to either owe you or get in debt. And so you just move into this is a game that you aren't going to win.
Yeah, unfortunately, he keeps playing himself because they do keep winning.
Yeah. So while the rest of the crew abandons Luffy demands that the Baron return his friends, and the Baron's just like, nah, and shoots tracking arrows that follow Luffy until he is brought into a underground tunnel system by Brief. And DJ Kappa, meanwhile, chases and knocks out Nami and Sanji. Zoro tries to cut him, but he no longer bleeds. Zoro gets shot with an arrow, and then DJ Kappa, trying to figure out what's going on, dies as well. And it's just kind of increasing that horror there. Just this weird kid trying to figure out why he's not dying.
But ironically, that's what kills him. So don't think about death and you'll be fine.
Yeah,
that is the limit of the powers of the Lily Carnation. And I guess this is around the time when we start figuring out what the Lily Carnation is and does.
Yeah,
to some degree.
Yeah, like we get a brief moment with Luffy in Brief's base where he finds out that the Baron killed Brief's own crew and loves to destroy friendships, and then we like actually get the horror scene on top of the mountain. So Chopper wakes up on the mountain in front of Lily Carnation and the family of pirates. Lily just starts shooting like grabby tendrils that are also just kind of weirdly rendered, and it makes them so much more dissonant to try and steal Daisy, the youngest daughter. Chopper saves her, but then he gets grabbed. The kids try and save him, and their dad's like, no, I've got to save you. And Chopper is absorbed into like the face of the flower with everyone else, which is like this trypophobic nightmare where they're just sinking in, and it's also like projecting something into the sky. Like it's very
it's very strange. Yeah, it's kind of jarring after like, you know, this fun pirate movie, and then suddenly we're getting into the nightmare fuel. But I do really like to say something really nice. I do really like the character arc of the dad pirate,
Mhm.
where he's kind of a loser, but like he's trying to be a big man for his kids, and you can kind of see that it's partly, you know, for his own ego, but also partly because he has a duty to protect them, and you know they need to believe in him. And this scene where where Chopper saves the kids and the dad is kind of, okay, that's good, but I need to save the kids. They're my first priority. I'm getting them out of here. And the kids, you know, seeing their father kind of what they, you know, what appears to them as just cowardice, where you might say like, yeah, he's kind of a coward, but he's not wrong.
Mhm.
You know, he's got like he's not wrong to want to just get his kids out of there.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like a really good kind of culmination of the story with these guys.
Yeah. So we see as the Straw Hat crew is starting to get absorbed, members of the Red Arrow Pirates are reviving, and Luffy returns without his hat, and like we just get another horrifying moment of Luffy seeing his crew members starting to vanish into the giant flower, and he keeps trying to reach out and stretch for them, and it just turns very body horror-ish as the Baron just keeps pinning those limbs until he finally stretches his neck in a way that is just like so sad and desperate, and he's unable to save any of them.
Yeah, the fun kind of Stretch Armstrong aspect of this, which you know is very often kind of played for, you know, some level of comedy almost, you know, and is really used to some good effect for pathos here.
Yeah.
Because where you can see his desperation and like, you know, using his neck of all things.
Mm-hmm. And like we've seen it before where he's like taken out some enemies with like headbutting them this way, and here it is his last attempt. Luckily he gets saved by Brief and gets brought back into the secret base where the tea room pirates are hiding, and Daisy, the youngest girl, reveals that she can hear his crew members are still alive. And Luffy is kind of revived by that. He gets reunited with his hat and heads out this time using the tunnel so he can head to the flower. Brief assists him by offering a distraction because he's Luffy's friend, and when the Baron insults him for that, Luffy protects Brief from a bunch of arrows, punches the Baron in the face, causing him to drop the bow, and then he just runs up and beats the shit out of Lily Carnation until it explodes, and that's the end point of everything. Happy ending. It doesn't get worse. Except that's when Daisy reveals that she can't hear his friends anymore in the flower. The flower on the Baron's shoulder transforms into a monstrous form where all the crew members are like growing out of it like a bulbous mass. And then the remains of the massive plant turn into arrows that just rain down on Luffy. It goes from like, oh hey, we're at like an 8 to, oh yeah, no, this is 11, dog. 11 out of 10 horror.
Yeah, it gets pretty wild towards the end here. Very Akira with all this goopy tentacle pulsing stuff coming out. The flower turning into arrows is a very cool thing. It looks like very kind of early CG there, I think,
Yeah.
or at least touched up with it. It's kind of got that like, you know, it's from, like you said, I think this is from what, 2000 or something. What year is this?
This was 2005.
2005. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of 2005 CG,
Mhm.
but it's got just the waves of arrows making that that cascade of clicking noises as they all turn around and point is a very nice little
Yeah.
moment, and it does really up the tension.
So Daisy calls out that Luffy's friends are still in there because she has really good hearing skills like her mom had, and that's how she knows that her dad loves the family so much. So the dad, who never actually gets a name, takes the Baron's bow, a loose arrow, and fires it through the head of Lily Carnation, getting a really just great and gory explosion. And then, kind of in a, oh, you thought this would be nice, but it's not, all of the Baron's crew instantly just turn into plants. Luffy knocks out the Baron, and then the dying ghosts of the Baron's old crew are just like, hey, sorry to go. You should have just made new friends instead.
Yeah, this is this is the big reveal of what has been going on this whole time, and it turns out, yeah, like somehow feeding pirates to the big tube creates these kind of rubitol type plant clones of them,
Mm-hmm.
and since the Baron's friends all died in a big storm, he has just been making, I guess, remaking clones of them. I suppose whenever they realize, oh, hey, our lives don't make sense, then they just die, and he has to replace them with more. It
Or
seems.
like if they
Um,
run out of energy.
yeah, yeah. This is, I thought, like this is actually like a really interesting
Mm-hmm.
concept, and I'm a little disappointed that this was not that this the ultimate reveal of the movie didn't get like a little more exploration along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is kind of like, yeah, the big mystery reveal, so you have to save it to the end. But I feel like um, I feel like the thing about this is I would have really liked more time with the Baron,
Mm-hmm.
because he really is, if you think about it, this very kind of tragic villain. Because yeah, like he all his friends died. He discovered a way to basically reincarnate
Mm-hmm.
them, and as such, he's kind of like stunted his own growth. He can never get over their deaths because it will always be fresh to him. He hasn't been able to mourn, and when his plot is revealed and all his friends die, we do get like a little bit of his sadness, his ruination now.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we did not get like a lot of insight into the Baron prior to this. He just was kind of like, oh, he's the villain. He's there. He's running a contest. But I don't really. I didn't get like a feel for him, and I think that's probably like. I think that is a little bit to the movie's detriment, because he could be such an he's not a bad villain, but I feel like there could be so much more done with
Yeah,
him.
the closest thing we get is that he knew Gold Roger, who was the previous king of the pirates, and so that kind of speaks to like his level of fame and power. But again, coming in from this unfamiliar, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah. Now, has he ever reappeared in any other One Piece media, or is he just like a one-time guy?
So I know some other characters have, like, I believe the family makes a cameo in a later One Piece movie.
Mm, mm.
Uh I'm double checking. No, the Baron does not appear.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, I guess his story is told, so not much cause to bring him back. It'd be like bringing back, Gavo. so, um, but he just seems like there's a lot of potential that wasn't necessarily explored in this
Yeah.
film.
Yeah, the dad and the family appear in One Piece Stampede, which is the 20th anniversary movie that they put out.
Okay, so we get them again. So that's Dad and Rosa and Rick and
Yeah.
Daisy.
But again, they're like background characters, blink and you miss them type scenario. Yep.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, and then we end as Luffy wakes up with the other survivors, and the Straw Hats get back up, and the sun begins to rise.
and all's well. They survived the secret island.
Mhm.
The island has secrets has been exposed.
Yep, they killed an endangered species of flower.
Oh, it's like killing a screamo pillar.
Mhm. Highly illegal.
Yeah, yeah. They've committed insecticide and attempted buggery.
So, Janine, any final thoughts on the movie?
Honestly, I love how completely fucked up it is.
Mhm.
It took some big swings.
Yeah. I understand why a lot of people have this as their favorite One Piece movie. It's also sort of the end of One Piece movies where Ichiro Oda, who created One Piece, was not directly involved with them. Because the next two after this are essentially recaps. One of them, both of them are full recaps. One of them is sort of a remix with some different characters who appeared later in the series. And then everything else since then has been supported both with like, hey, we're going to do some episodes of the anime TV show to lead you into this. And Oda has at least contributed character design. So this was sort of the last of the Arturi pieces. And it's also one where a lot of fans like to be like, well, it doesn't make sense why Luffy would suddenly win if he thinks that he has friends. I like to think that he really died, and the rest of the show after this point is just his hallucinations of a dying brain.
We're doing the Garfield 9 Lives
Yeah,
bit.
Yeah. I mean, it is after this point that they are joined by a cyborg and a living skeleton on the crew, so.
Whoa, that's getting a little out there.
Yeah.
Not like this totally reality-based stretchy guy and a reindeer with a hat.
Yeah. Yeah, as your like first full exposure to One Piece, has this been like, well, maybe I can commit some time to the 100 or 1,000 plus episodes?
Well, I'll be honest. Like, I have mixed feelings about the movie. I think there's a lot of potential in this movie. Like, I feel like it's really interesting. It's got like cool, fucked up body horror. It's got a weird mystery that actually has a very cool and interesting reveal. And it does have some good character moments, both with like the Ochinama family as well as the tragedy of the Baron. I feel like this particular movie, it did not reach its full potential because it spent a lot of time on these challenges, which I feel like, to me, not knowing One Piece, I felt like, okay, we're just spinning our wheels here. But I kind of got the impression like, oh, this might be, typical One Piece stuff where you have some shenanigans like that. So I wouldn't say that this movie would do a pretty good job of selling me on a series that maybe had less than 1,000 episodes.
Fair.
Because I feel like, okay, if it's a shorter series, I can see like this series could be pretty good. Because even if this particular movie didn't get to its full potential, I can see that there's enough that in episodes might make it pretty interesting. And so like I think One Piece, like it could be, but 1,000 episodes is such a big commitment.
I'd also say you do not need to watch all 1,000 episodes. And there's a few points where it's like, yeah, if you aren't sold by this point, you're fine skipping. And even a lot of people are like, well, there's a point where it becomes so weirdly paced that we just switch to reading the manga instead. And it's like, yeah, that's fair.
So I've been told that One Piece is a little bit like Homestuck in the sense that like it's almost impossible to find a good entry point by now because there's so much of it.
No. I mean, like part of the idea of the show is we bring people on for stuff that is either standalone or the start to see if we can sell them on the show.
I would be willing to watch more standalone stuff. So I'll say this: the movie sold me on like I could watch standalone stuff and like get to know it more. But like the entire watching the entire series, but also like I should. But just for the to be fair, I have like I barely have the attention span to watch, one of those YouTube shorts these days. So
Fair.
it's a whole half-hour episode. Oh God!
They've made like 15 One Piece movies, and at least 7 of them are pretty available for streaming. And
I could watch those.
those are,
I think.
yeah. All right. Well, we have 15 characters to come together for matches on, starting with the titular Baron Omatsuri. Omatsuri means festival. So one of the things that we do is there are Rodrigo picks, which are picks for episodes that came out that we would have covered in that episode. So typically it's characters specifically from like whatever concurrent Simpsons episodes came out. In this case, I picked all of these characters from the 3 episodes we chose to discuss. And then I have throwback picks for everybody. And all the throwback picks are from Simpsons episodes that actually came out around the same time as the movie. So my Rodrigo's pick is Mr. Johansson, who is Sideshow Mel's boss at the Gulp and Blow, and my throwback is the rapper Alcatraz, because he similarly travels with a group. I could kind of see Omatsuri's sort of like palm tree head as stylistic dreads. Also, he has a beard and a mustache. Janine, who do you have?
I did a pairing for this one, and that is Arthur Crandall and Gabbo for my Lily Carnation. I feel like they have very similar relationships.
I think that's a pretty good pick for those two. I mean, it flows really well. It's like the relationship between them. I ended up though thinking of with the Baron because he has a mustache and he also endures a tragic loss. So my pick for him was the "My Children Need a Wine" Euro Itchy and Scratchy Lamb cashier.
Interesting.
And I didn't have a backup pick for him, but I'm going to do Arthur Crandall as my backup, I think.
All right, Crandall Hive. And then coming in from our listeners. That is the listener call. Mike Patten, our cover artist, suggested the Freddy Krueger style groundskeeper Willie. Just standard in the sweater. I feel like I can go with Arthur Crandall and Gabbo as sort of the pitch for this one. I'll go over. We can go over the Lily picks that we have as well. My Rodrigo was Alien Burns. My throwback was Jesus Tomato when they did a Passion of the Christ VeggieTales thing. Karella, who did you have as your initial Lily Carnation pick?
So my initial Lily Carnation pick was the Mr. Burns Alien. And backup, as we're doing the episode, this is not a Rodriguez pick, but I was thinking of the Screamer Pillar.
A classic one. And then our listeners, Reverse Eye Patch suggested Sumatran Century Flower, and Mike P suggested the Drinking Bird. I really think that this is a great use for Arthur Crandall and Gabbo.
Hell yeah.
Yep, I think that works.
All right. We then have Muchigoro. Everybody loves Muchigoro. Who did you have for Muchigoro, Karella?
So I picked a character that I thought just looked like Muchigoro, and that is Krusty's Ersatz Gabbo doll Alphonse. Or Alfonso. Some variation on that name, now I think about it.
I wrote down all the new characters. It is Alphonse.
There you go. Yeah. He's got a similar facial structure, I think.
Janine, who did you have?
I had Panicky Man from the Simpsons movie. He did not know to go left. He did not know to go right, so he had the dome squash him straight in the middle.
I'm double checking. Yeah, Janine, Simpsons movie came out 2 years after this.
Ooh, I did not know we were playing with that limitation.
Yeah, that was in the rules. Because we can only cover what's been released so far, Janine, unless we have some sort of future scope. I had Rodrigo style the Mariner from the Waterworld video game. Because the guy seems like a fishman, but he is not a fishman. For context, Karella, there are both fishmen and mermaids in One Piece.
Oh, okay. I got the impression that like the goldfish was like his pet or
Yeah.
something. He seemed to have a relationship with the goldfish. It wasn't just a giant goldfish.
Mhm.
So there's some sort of like, fishy like Aquaman type psychic connection going on between him and a fish, it seems.
The other one that I had was Joe Torre, baseball commentator who shoots Flipper in an episode. I want to push for the Mariner because I've been thinking about Waterworld.
I think the Mariner fits.
Let's go with Mariner.
All right. If y'all haven't listened to it, the Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe's Waterworld Stunt Spectacular movie is a wild, wild time. We then have Rosario, the giant CGI goldfish who looks like a... What was the card anime that wasn't Yu-Gi-Oh, but it was like, who's the kid with the spiky hair? Showed you. It was like, get in the zone, the battle zone. Jenny?
Oh, Pokemon. I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know which other animes there are.
Yeah, Janine, do you have any recollection of this?
I feel like you're making it up right now.
I feel like that is hateful, and let's not Montcalli Knights. Not. Oh wait, I can look up the character's name. Shobu card game anime. Because anyone who's familiar with this would be like, oh yeah, no, that is exactly the Duel Masters. Because all the Duel Masters cards are similarly like 3D animation, but like very cheap 2000s 3D animation.
Mm.
And that aesthetic also was on the cards. Tangent ended. I had Shamu and also Flipper. Who did you have, Karella?
So I also had Shamu. I assume it's the same Shamu. I was thinking of the whale that Mo has in the back of the bar in the Springfield files. Though I don't think he specifically names him as Shamu, but he does say get him back to SeaWorld. So I assume it's Shamu.
Yeah, if you're making a SeaWorld joke and you're not using Shamu, what's going on?
I mean, they're all named Shamu. As far as I know, all the killer whales there are named Shamu. My backup for Rosario was just the turtle that steals Grandpa's teeth.
The teethy turtle. Janine, how about you?
Fugu pufferfish.
Mm.
I'm on Team Shamu just because Shamu is a friend and also goes in a big bucket.
Yeah, I mean, I already said Shamu, so.
Janine, you good with that?
I'm gonna have to be.
That's democracy in action. I have two sets for the Karoji, Karoshot, Karodik, and Karoko. My Rodrigo picks are the Budweiser Frogs and the Coors Gator for Karoko. And then My throwbacks were Clyde, Blinky, Inky, and Pinky, the ghost from Pac-Man, who appeared in the Super Bowl halftime show where Pac-Man and Mrs. Pac-Man get married. Janine, how about you?
I have a wide range of old people because the Simpsons wiki people have a section for seniors, and I just
Mhm.
kind of ran through it pretty earlier today. I have hippie bus driver Johnny Carson, Les Moore, and Gertie. However, I really like the Budweiser Frogs and the Coors Gator on this one.
What was the third one? It was Hippie Bus Driver, Johnny Carson, Blank, and Gertie.
Les Moore.
Oh, Santa's Little Helper's owner.
Yes.
All right, and Karella, who do you have?
So these are some character. I was thinking some characters who we never actually see, but we do hear
Mhm.
them. And in my head canon, there's four of them, and that is the crazy old man singers.
Right, from the Old Gray Layer and what you. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh, can I push y'all for the Budweiser Frogs and Coors Gator?
I mean, I think they are frog related, so that does make sense to me. So I'd be fine with that.
And Janine, you're good with that too?
Yes, as long as Kuroko's the gator.
Yeah, yeah. The Coors Gator. All right, we then have Brief. Janine, who do you have for Brief?
I have Charlie Chaplin Homer from the silent movie Couch Gag.
I had Nazi Superman are our superiors, Roger Meyer Sr.
Wonderful. Superiors. I had Rodrigo style Marvin the Martian, just because very similar vibes, and I assume that anyone he would travel with would also just look like Marvin the Martians. And then Ranger Johnson, who is just a generic ranger, but he has not quite a pith helmet he had, but similar vibe.
Is is Ranger Johnson the one who is standing behind the drunk?
No, this would be in a later episode.
Oh, okay. I'm not familiar with him then. Too many Rangers on this
I
show.
know. And none of them have enough powers. Yeah, I'm going to use Charlie Chaplin Homer if y'all are.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Hell yeah.
All right, we then have Ochinoma Papa, who is not given a name, and it's kind of weird that all of his kids are, even though some of them don't really have any personality.
Do better next time, children.
Uh-huh. My Rodrigo style was the adult man board. And then I had Joe Spaghettio from the Gary Busey movie about not violating your thing when you can't get in within a certain distance of someone. I'm totally blanking on that. I've gotten less than 6 hours of sleep the past few weeks. Thank you.
Restraining order?
Yes, thank you. Restraining order.
Yeah.
Janine, who do you have for Ochinoma Papa?
I did a group roundup.
Mm-hmm.
So this one I have for the entire Ochinoma family.
Hmm.
Going down the line, they are the family that has a reformed father at Marvin Monroe's Family Therapy Center.
Mm-hmm.
Reformed reforms dad's like daughter, the son, and the baby.
So would Daisy be the baby?
Yes, Daisy would be baby. They all have similar hairstyles and look eerily like The Simpsons, but with a different hairstyle.
How about you, Karella?
So for Ochinama Dad, my first pick was the helicopter pilot who says nothing could possibly go wrong. That's the first thing that's ever gone wrong, just because he seems to have similar luck. And my backup pick was Krusty's stupid horse. For Rosa, who I think is the oldest daughter of the Ochinama
Yes.
kids. She seems like she has big energy. So the woman from Itchy and Scratchy Land who says, "I would be terribly embarrassed if I were that boy's mother." For Rick, I chose Little Bort, and for Daisy, the cute little baby axe they see in the 12 o'clock robot parade.
Awesome. Well, my other Rodrigo picks, I had Ochinama Papa as Bort Man. Rosa was Bort's mom, even though she's not the mom, but she fits that. I had Bort Boy for Rick, and then Sewage Crab for Daisy, because there weren't enough characters for the Bort, and I wanted to remember that Sewage Crab. And then for the throwbacks, Joe Spaghettio is Ochinoma Papa, Rosa is Queen Booty Shaka, Rick is Jamadin Jimmy, a kid in a like Lil Blue Pill type commercial, and then Secular Daughter for Daisy. I feel like we can go enough with Bort, or Boy Bort for Rick.
Mhm.
And then it's just going to be a matter of filling out the others there.
I do like Daisy being the little axe.
Yeah. I think it's better than Sewage Crab.
I'm gonna have to Ooter pile Sewage Crab.
The Ooter pile is where we put in characters until the right person comes along. Named after long-term resident Ooter Zorker. Can we do Bort Man for Ochinoma Papa just to wrap up our boy Borts?
I mean, I think it makes sense to connect the Borts.
And then we just need to figure out Rosa. Terribly embarrassed mother, I think, is a good fit.
She's got the energy.
All right. Then we have Chef Kotetsu. Kotetsu means plan. It does not.
Plan?
No.
It does not. That is a joke on Kikaku means plan, a famously bad subtitle note.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say like, oh, I guess he plans a deep meal. Sure, makes sense.
Kotetsu is a like blanket that you put over a low table to keep warm.
Oh, huh.
Who do you have for Kotetsu, Karella?
So I actually thought this is the one that I picked, Mr. Johansson. Yeah, and my backup was Cigar Dr. Hibbert, who wants to know whether the love brought by aliens is the love of a man for a woman or the love of a man for a good Cuban cigar.
Wonderful. Janine, how about you?
Luigi Risotto.
Just classic Luigi Risotto.
I have no love for him.
Has he been used before? Because I kind of assumed he had, so otherwise I would have picked him.
I've been keeping Luigi Risotto because we eventually get to an entire kingdom that is just filled with cooks. And we need to save our chefs. My Rodrigo style is John Travolta, because he shows up at a low point in his life where he's not even really alive, and then things look like they're going to pick up for him, and they do not, at least in the One Piece movie. And then Kitchen Wizard, who is a guest character on a morning cooking show. His hat has stars and moons on it.
Both options are hilarious.
Yeah, I want to push for John Travolta just because I think we're going to forget about Kotetsu and John Travolta. Can I get a second for John Travolta?
I'm going to vote for Luigi Risotto just to throw gum in the works.
Scooter piling Luigi Risotto. We accept some levels of chaos here. But we stand up for the red, white, and risotto. Do we want to use Kitchen Wizard then?
All right, Kitchen Wizard sounds good, fine to me.
Or we can do Mr. Johansson. Janine, where are you?
Let's do it.
All right. And then last we have DJ Kappa, who for some reason the One Piece wiki sometimes just says DJ Gappa instead. And it's like, what are you trying to do here? My Rodrigo was Shark Bart, where Bart wears the shark fin to scare Homer, who is wearing a shark fin. My throwback is Romeo Smooth, who is a very small rapper and who's just carried around in a baby Bjorn, apparently. And then I put on the Teethy Turtle down here because or Turtle with Teeth, because I think it's a funny visual of that stole Usopp's hat instead. What if that turtle had an existential crisis? How about you?
I had Shark Boy Bart.
Heck yeah. And Karella.
I had a Worker from Worker and Parasite.
A popular choice, but I think we've had to put.
Oh, has that one already been snagged?
No, I think they've just been Ooter piled.
Gotcha.
We respect Worker and Parasite in this country way too much.
Well, someday they'll take down those capitalist pigs.
And then we'll all be like, what the hell was that?
Wait, so which one is Worker and which one's Parasite? Is it ever established?
I believe Worker would be the cat and Parasite would be the mouse.
Okay. So that's interesting that in Eastern Europe, the cat is the hero, as opposed to in Decadent West, where, so we celebrate the mouse and denigrate the cat.
Well, I feel like mice are more generally viewed as parasites.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have two Shark Barts. I do like Turtle with Teeth, but do we just want to go with Shark Bart?
Shark Bart works.
All right. So, Janine. Our Baron Omatsuri is Arthur Crandall. Our Lily Carnation is Gabbo. Our Mushigoro is the Mariner. Our Rosario is Shamu. Our Kiroji is Bud Frog. Our Kiroshat is Weiss Frog. Our Kirodik is Frog. Our Karoko is Coors Gator. Our Brief is Charlie Chaplin Homer. Ochanoma Papa is Bort Man. Rosa is Terribly Embarrassed Mother. Rick is Bort Boy. Daisy is Little Axe. Kotetsu is Kitchen Wizard. And DJ Kappa is Shark Bart. So, hey, we all did pretty good that episode.
Nice. I would watch a movie with that cast.
Well, unfortunately, Warner Brothers just did their Warner Brothers thing.
Boo. Thanks a lot. What's his name? Zipzapazam, Zaslav's, whatever that guy. Yeah. The man.
So, next week, we have a relative break as there is only 2 new characters as we get back to a giant war where all the pirates are fighting the marine government because they are trying to murder the son of the former king of the pirates. via state execution. It's wild times. Karella, where can you be found online?
Sure. So I am anywhere where exciting internet personalities hang out under the name Bitter Karella. And when I say that, I mean only on Blue Sky these days because all the other websites are bad or gone. So find me on Blue Sky as Bitter Karella. You can also find me on Patreon and Tumblr and Mastodon under the same name, or look for Midnight Pals on Blue Sky as well, or just go to my actual website, bitterkarella.com, where all the Bitter Karella news you can Bitter Karella at is posted.
All the news that's fit to Karella.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's where I am on the internet. So, come check me out. Why not? Got some, why not? Come by, see me. Say
Janine,
hi.
where can you be found?
You can find me over at Blue Sky. You can find me on Blue Sky at janine.bisky.social, and Janine is dope on Instagram, and
All the other sites.
all the other stuff. I guess I don't know. You could also find me on the DohMance Dawn Discord. Luke, where could you be found?
You can find me most places online as at Koltreg, KOLTREG, including my itch.io, where you can find comics that I have written. And yeah, if you follow me on Blue Sky, you'll hopefully hear stuff about new podcast projects. Shout out to Mike Patten, who drew the cover for this episode and most of the episodes for the past 50-something episodes of this podcast. You can find him most places at Patten Pending. That's PattenPending. You have been listening to DohMance Dawn. You can find us on most podcatchers of your choice, as well as YouTube, if you just want to have a video open for about an hour and a half, or however these episodes run. Yeah, that's mostly it. There's a Patreon under my name, Lukeher, Lukeherr, where if you donate, you get episodes early and clips of other things that I do, including movie scripts and other projects that keep my attention. We will be back in 2 more episodes as we continue the Summit War at Marineford, and we will hopefully see you then. Smooth sailing.